Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into some amazing research from Attitude to build a really cohesive, totally actionable toolkit for managing neurodivergence. Specifically, we're zeroing in on ADHD and autism management. Look, there's so much noise out there, right? So we're going to just cut right through all that and give you the clear, structured info you actually need to make an immediate impact. Let's get right into it. Now, I want you to think about this initial hurdle for a second, because it really represents this overwhelming anxiety that so many of us face. Whether you're a parent looking at your kids' behaviors or, an adult reflecting on your own life, you often just hit this massive wall of confusion. Is it a hyperactive trait? Is it an autism spectrum sign? Or maybe it's a co-occurring mood disorder? Honestly, trying to identify overlapping symptoms without a map, it can feel completely paralyzing. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, decoding ADHD and autism. 2, exploring your treatment options. 3, boosting your executive functions. 4, managing emotions and RSD. And finally, thriving at work and school.
All right, Section 1, Decoding ADHD and Autism, where we identify the root of the challenges.
Human behavior is incredibly complex, right? So symptom checkers are absolutely your vital first step here. You might be looking at hyperactive traits or autism spectrum signs or even a co-occurring mood disorder. The reality is ADHD very often overlaps with autism, anxiety, and depression. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. But by systematically identifying the specific neurological profile you're actually working with, you are laying down the absolute critical foundation for everything else that follows. Moving on to Section 2, exploring your treatment options and taking a multi-pronged approach. So, an effective toolkit really requires navigating a mix of things. We're talking medical interventions, like deciding between stimulant or non-stimulant medications right alongside therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. And crucially, it means building up those foundational natural habits. Managing this stuff isn't some one-size-fits-all magic pill, okay? It's a carefully calibrated combination approach uniquely tailored to you. The source research actually highlights 5 foundational habits that directly benefit ADHD brains. This is huge because it proves that non-medical treatments like targeted nutrition, exercise, and sleep hygiene, they aren't just nice-to-haves. No way. They are scientifically backed pillars of management. For example, understanding that certain sugars act literally like kryptonite to the ADHD brain, that allows you to use your diet as a seriously powerful, everyday tool in your kit. Okay, Section 3, boosting your executive functions, basically the CEO of the brain. Think of executive functions as the CEO of your brain. They're in charge of planning, focus, and memory. And building healthy routines to support that CEO takes some specific actionable steps. Step 1 is locking in those health routines we literally just talked about. Step 2, and I found this super surprising, but it's a vital fact from the sources, is simply making sure your neurodivergent kid stays hydrated, especially during the summer. I mean, dehydration heavily impacts brain fog. And step 3 is implementing concrete time management tools, like using a really well-crafted to-do list to bypass your brain's natural tendency to wait until the absolute last possible second to get anything done. We've all been there, right? That brings us to Section 4, managing emotions and RSD, and tackling those explosive motions. Allow me to introduce you to the hidden iceberg beneath the surface of neurodivergence, rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD for short. This is an incredibly intense emotional reactivity that gets triggered by even just the perceived threat of rejection or criticism. And let me tell you, it heavily informs the daily lives of people with ADHD. It's so critical to understand here that the challenge isn't just about focus. It's about navigating these incredibly big, rapid-fire emotions. The source material actually uses this really powerful, almost stop-you-in-your-tracks kind of phrase, identity-level pain. It's such a perfect way to describe how RSD triggers this profound, core-shaking pain that goes way, way beyond what we'd call typical emotional sensitivity. When you understand this phrase, it completely changes how you view emotional outbursts. It's not a lack of discipline, folks. It is a profound, very real neurological pain response. And because this hypersensitivity is a profound neurological response, again, not a discipline issue, having predetermined emotional regulation scripts is absolutely a mandatory pillar of your toolkit. You need strategies in place way before the emotional flood actually hits. Having a plan allows you to control the anger and de-stress, rather than punishing a child or even punishing yourself for an emotional flood that is, in that moment, completely outside of conscious control. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, thriving at work and school. Management certainly doesn't just stop after childhood. For kids, thriving means securing things like 504 plans with targeted accommodations and setting up stress-free homework systems. But for adults, it means discovering those ideal jobs for restless, creative minds and actually aligning your career with your hyper-focused passions. The strategies have to evolve right alongside you. But we also have to actively guard against the negatives in those adult environments. The data actually shows that workplace gaslighting disproportionately impacts neurodivergent professionals. So for adults, a huge part of your management toolkit is learning how to spot and fiercely protect yourself from workplace bullying. You really have to utilize your self-awareness to recognize when an environment is just plain toxic to your specific neurological makeup. At the end of the day, getting a diagnosis, exploring therapies, and building this comprehensive toolkit, it isn't just about managing a dry list of clinical symptoms. Ultimately, it is about giving yourself the license to finally trust yourself. I'll leave you with this. What could you accomplish if you stopped fighting your brain's natural wiring and instead gave yourself the tools to thrive exactly as you are? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Start building your toolkit today.